there aren't a lot of people out there. It's like, how do you pair? How do you sit there and try to figure out what might taste good with something else? And the only thing I could think of was literally you have to look at the notes and see. Well, okay, see, I'm already going wrong there. Dirk's shaking his head, but I'm thinking. I mean, you're right, because if you go off the notes, you're going off of what somebody is interpreting,
right,
that they taste in it, right? So I see your point there, but maybe look at the flavor profile of it, not necessarily what it tastes like, but more, is it a Maduro? Is it a Connecticut? Is it is it a Habano? And try to maybe pick out something that might complement that a little bit more. So if it's a heavier cigar, would you want like a coffee with it? A bolder flavor with it, or do you don't want to set that off by having bold and bold?
What I experienced years and years ago is, when you go to a buffet and you're invited to a function and they have this buffet, I learned early on one of the easiest ways to actually enjoy the buffet is start with the dessert. You go to the dessert first, right? Because nobody goes there, and then when the line is dying down on the other stuff, you go there. And what I have started doing many years ago is that actually I have enjoyed starting with dessert. And one of my to-go desserts when it gets to cigars or to wine or to whiskey is always the sweet stuff. So one of the best desserts to pair either a wine, a whiskey, or any other, or even a beer, it easily is the way to go with the dessert. And that always gives me an opening of the flavor palette that I want to experience. And that's where I would start if I were to think about it. An ice cream with like a cinnamon ice cream or a cigar or an ice cream. A tiramisu is excellent. A tiramisu opens up all sorts of flavors because it has that little bit of licorice in it. It comes in where you have the opportunity to have that cinnamon or that chocolate in it, your tiramisu. If you pair that along with a glass of wine and then a cigar, that gives you that flavor profile that you're looking for. It's really amazing to experience that, to go in and have that tiramisu along with wine and the cigar. That together is my favorite way of experiencing a cigar.
I didn't think about that. I'm going to have a slice of apple pie and a cigar.
Mm-hmm. Apple pie with cinnamon in it. And then what I always do with the tiramisu is I always put the tiramisu in first, followed by the red wine, and then the cigar.
Yeah,
that's
sounds good.
It really is. I think what really you talked about how people are following the content that has been written about the cigar. And I think it's a great direction, but it should not intimidate you in order to explore your own profile on a cigar or a wine or a whiskey, whatever you pair it with. Start and be comfortable, be wild, if you want to call it that, and really direct and try different things. I personally, and I'm not kidding you all, I have never, ever, ever, and I'm now living here in the United States for 30 plus years, I have never had a Dr. Pepper.
I'm sending you a case, Dirk.
Yeah.
Never had that. Heard that the sugar in the Dr. Pepper actually is making a difference in it. And I think that's why I personally prefer the tiramisu with it, because it gives you that all these variances in that dessert and gives you really that flavor, and it opens it up. And if you were to take a whiskey with a tiramisu and a cigar, my recommendation is to try that. I always tell people, when you go with the cigars and you're starting, go with a light or medium body of the cigar to really get into it. When going back to the Scotch, when a lot of people that are drinking bourbon are not trying to go into Scotch they make that mistake that they go with the heavy peated stuff like the Lefroy or the Hardbert, and that often kills that experience completely because it's so overwhelming. And it's the same thing with cigars. You are taking a dark cigar, and dark doesn't necessarily mean heavy. That we also know that. So you don't have to be scared by the color of a cigar. But if you are looking at something pairing, go with what you would drink normally and bring the cigar into the game and experience it that way. That's, from my point of view, a better way than to really 100% rely on what you read. It's a great direction. I still struggle often with all the nuances of what is supposed to be in that cigar, what I'm supposed to find. It's the same thing with Scotch. If you put a Scotch in front of me and tell me all these fruits and all this, what you're supposed to find, maybe I'll find it, but not necessarily.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree there. Because, like, going back to what we were just talking about earlier, was we rely on Zach to pull out flavors for stuff because we don't get those hints of what everybody's saying is in it. We just don't get it. We enjoy the cigar, we don't enjoy the cigar. We like the taste, we don't like the taste. So if you're out there and you are learning about cigars and you're starting it up, we've been doing it for years, right?
Correct.
And we don't hit those tastes. So if you don't get those tastes, you're not doing it wrong.
Right.
You just don't get those tastes that they're saying. It's okay. Just focus on, are you enjoying yourself? Do you like the cigar? Yes. Then, get you another one like that. If you don't, move on to something else,